Look, you said that you were looking at all the different religions, yeah? Once again, you said you don't accept idolatry and stuff. I accept that. I believe in that as well. I agree with you. Look, the first thing I want to say to you is, from a Muslim perspective, from an Islamic perspective, yeah, is that we would say the starting point for us is a very strict monotheism, where we believe that there is an ultimate creator, sustainer, an ultimate power that initiated the universe, if that makes sense. Now, how feasible does that sound in your mind? How rational does that sound in your mind?
Yeah, I believe that the creator is what brings life to the material realm.
Yeah.
The material realm is just an illusion. Okay?
Yeah.
We can't take any of this stuff with us when we go. So the idea of an immortal God from which we all originate gives us purpose.
So you agree with that idea? You accept it, I mean? Do you believe in it?
The creator, yeah. Creator gives life to existence.
So alright, so what I was going to say now, since that's the case, now we have to define some of the attributes of this creator, yeah? Would you accept that some of the attributes are creative capacity or power or knowledge? Would you say that these are fundamental to such a force?
Yeah, of course. Creativity, the creative essence of the universe and of individual souls, yeah. That is God, I completely agree. How can we, intuition, for example, this is a fundamental metaphysical function of our personality, our soul.
Yeah.
How can we can't program a machine, for example, to do these things. So how can we ever prove that this exists outside of this?
What we would say is that if essentially our aim in life is to be submissive to God, right? If that's the aim of life or the purpose of life, surely there should be a uniform way, a universal way, that God has allowed human beings to be able to do that.
A uniform, I agree,
Yeah. So now, we would say, this is the Islamic narrative. I'll be completely straightforward with you, yeah? The Islamic narrative is that the way that happens is that the Creator communicates with the creation. And He does so through prophets who have come before time, yeah? So prophets are a necessary extension of what is necessary to happen or appropriate between the Creator and the creation. And so prophets came before time. The Islamic narrative is that so long as humans were on earth, there were prophets preaching the message of what we'd call submission, yeah? So people like Adam, you might have heard of these kind of biblical names. Adam and Noah and Moses and Jesus. All of those are prophets that came to their respective peoples and their respective times and preached the message of submission to their peoples. Does that make sense?
Completely, yeah.
Right. So what we would say is that the messengers came fundamentally with two different things. They came with a message and they came with an evidence base to substantiate that message. So in the case of Moses, you might have heard of these stories of basically, the sea splitting and all these kind of different things. Yeah, it's in the Old Testament. It's also in the Quran. These stories are meant to indicate that these are evidences, yeah, that are used to prove the message of submission, because there's something which break the natural capacity of physical reality around us. So there are evidence that basically God is the author of the message that these prophets come with. Now, whereas all of the prophets and messengers were sent to their respective...
Can I ask you,
yes.
is this sea splitting? Why is that? Why does that give evidence that this is the word? What's that got to do with Muhammad, for example? The sea is
right. So no, the sea splitting doesn't have anything to do specifically with Muhammad's message, but although it is in the Quran, we're talking specifically about Moses. So in his time, and this is an interesting thing that has actually been alluded to by some of our scholars in Islam, that depending on the societal kind of what's societally popular at the time, the evidence base that the messengers come with suits that. So at the time of kind of the young the Middle Empire, or wherever it is in Egypt, when Ramses II was there, at this time they were fascinated with magic and all these kind of things. Now Moses came with you could call it a miracle really, which basically broke the rules of physical nature, yeah, and which acted as an evidence for his people. So when people saw it, they said, okay, well, this makes sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. So for us now, we will say, what's our miracle, right? Because we need some evidence as well to be able to substantiate the claim that Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger, because that's our claim. Our claim is that Prophet Muhammad, whereas all of the other prophets were sent to their people in their times, Jesus, Moses, etc., Abraham, Muhammad was sent for all peoples and all times. So that's the Islamic narrative. So what he's come with is he's come with an auditory miracle, or an auditory evidence base, whereas all the prophets came before usually with a visual evidence base. So like for example in the case of Moses, the sea splitting was something for human beings to visualize and see, whereas what we say is the evidence base for the Islamic message is actually the Quran itself, which is something actually which was transmitted orally, although it does have of course written books as well to corroborate and triangulate the veracity of the oral message. So here, as with the Quranic discourse, as we've said before, it has within it evidences, we would say, which are very powerful in convincing people that this is basically something which had to be extra human. In other words, it couldn't have been put together by a human ability. Here, when we say we have evidence for the veracity and the truthfulness of Islam, we're not just saying that we have kind of superfluous evidence or kind of arbitrary subjective type evidences. Our evidences are probably are actually can be analyzed objectively. Do you see what I'm saying? This is not regarding the fact that the Quran is also in and of itself a book that claims that it has no contradictions, a book that challenges mankind to produce a chapter like it, a book of we would actually make the argument that the only ancient religious book which has been preserved in terms of its material, its corpus. The Muslims have never had a controversy, and this can go on the record, and believe me, I'm here every week and people they'll try and maybe, but I can say this completely clearly, the Muslims have never had a controversy on what constitutes the Quran. Never. It's never happened. They've had controversies on everything else, but they've never had a controversy on what constitutes the Quran. The Christians, on the other hand, they are differing on how many books are in the biblical canon. The Protestants say 72 books. The Protestants say 66. The Catholics say 72. The Eastern Orthodox say 81. So here we don't even know how many books are in the Bible, let alone the manuscripts and these things. So here, what we're saying is not only do we have evidences that are analyzable, if that's a word, but also we have that which is necessary for a book to be a word of God, a preserved book, free from contradiction and unimitable. So with that, do you see the power of the argument?
Yeah, no, I believe that it's been like when you buy a software for the first time and you install updates.
Yeah.
It's like Christianity came along, that was one update, and we've had Islam, that was the final.
I think that's a good way. I'm not going to lie to you. I just want to be straightforward with you, because I like you. You're a nice guy. You dress well. I came here I didn't even dress properly today. So I just came. I was gonna come. I wasn't gonna come today, but I'm happy I did because I had a conversation with you. Yeah. Listen to me. I'm going to tell you directly. I believe that the purpose of life is to worship God through submission. Not only is that the case, I believe that the guidelines for human beings is therefore the Quran, because it's the final book for the reasons I've mentioned. So if we want to live a fruitful life which is in compliance with the will of God, it's got to be done through the injunctions of the Quran and the Sunnah. Do you accept that epistemological base that I've given you is an argument which can be accepted or should be accepted based on the evidences put forward?
I agree completely. I think that unless someone comes up with a more up-to-date version of truth, theological truth,
yes,
I suppose it can make sense to accept that as the most up-to-date.
Fantastic. So what we can do is we can do the Shahada, right? Now the Shahada is the declaration of faith. Now do you believe in what I've just said? Do you agree that the Quran is probably the word of God based on what I've told you?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you do now is it's good now to become a Muslim. And what the word Muslim actually means is someone who submits their will to God. As we've said in the beginning, that's the whole point of it. And what I'll do is I'll give you my number, and me and you will discuss more like, how to kind of perform your rituals and these kind of things. We'll get you a package of things to do and watch and stuff like that. We'll take it easy on you. But how do you feel? Should we go for it?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't call myself not a Muslim. I'm already practicing Muslim in many respects, so it's nothing new for me. But I would very, very much like that. Yeah.
Would you like that? Okay, let's do it then. So I'm going to say it in Arabic. You answer. You just kind of follow what I say, and then I'll say it in English. Okay? So what you're going to say is, I bear witness that there's only one God worthy of worship, being submissive to, which is we believe the God that we talked about. Yeah, and that the Prophet is the final messenger.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Well done, well done. Now you're part of the family, my friend. Welcome to Islam. How you doing? Well, now.
Nice to meet you on Eid as well. You accept Islam, mashallah.